Good day, Borough Bath. It is your Borough Manager, Brad Flynn. It is Wednesday, October the 4th, 2023, and this will be another budget read-through for everyone who is a big fan of the borough budget, like I know many of you are. So we had our budget meetings. So far, this will be the third round. We've been discussing the borough budget for 2024 since August. We had another meeting in September, October, and then we'll be heading into the October 11th meeting, and also in November, possibly December. If we need to take things that far, we could do so and pass a budget hopefully in December at the very latest. So for all of those of you in the borough of Bath that can't attend a council meeting, or you won't be able to get to the October 11th council meeting, that's okay, because I'm going to share with you what council has before them as far as a budget draft, what they've been talking about. The difference between this budget and the budgets of the past, the ones from August, September, and October, is that this budget does include a property tax increase, and we'll explain more about the need for a property tax increase as I go through the presentation. So, and here we go. So I think I have my little pen on, but I'm able to make up some, I can mark things up as I go. Let me just see. All right. Yeah, you might be able to see that as I go along. All right, I just changed the color. Yeah, that might be a little better. Okay. So as we go down the budget, this is what the Borough Council has been looking at over the last few months as we get closer and closer towards the end of the budget season and in for final adoption. So the draft budgets, again, we don't post these budgets online because they change. It's deliberative in nature. So a lot of that stuff isn't subject to right to know per se, but I'm releasing a lot of this so you can see it and follow along with the discussion. If you have questions, you can always write to us or call us, and just so you can be heard if need be, if you see something you'd like more explanation on. You could also always talk to the borough office, set up some time to come down to the borough hall, and we could read through this budget with you if you'd like. If you have additional questions, it's no problem whatsoever. Okay, so as we go along here, we'll start off with the general fund. This will be the complete budget, all the budgets in one. So basically we have 7 funds that the borough is going to be looking into this year going into 2024. We had 6, we're looking at a 7th. The 7th, of course, is going to be this Municipal Separate Storm Sewer System Fund, the MS4 fund, as it's called for short. So the first up is the general fund. We have general government expenses at $19,090, the mayor's expenses at $3,100. I'll try to see if I can get rid of these marks that I just made. There we go. Okay, as we continue to go on. Borough manager, we had a lot of lines taken out of the borough manager line and put into things, IT, things like that went into its own separate line item, which we'll show you as we continue down the budget. We have wages in the different categories, whether it's borough manager or the secretary or public works, and it's set based off of the 2023 expected earnings. Wage rates are done between October 1, or employee evaluations are done between October 1 through the end of September of the following year. And then wage rates could take place sometime in the first or second week of December of the budget year that you're in. So we don't know what 2024 is looking like because we haven't gone through the employee evaluation period to see what the increases will be. But typically there is a percentage increase, 3, 4, 5% it could be. Our wage rates are dependent on performance, but also economic factors. We get, the borough receives survey data from the Pennsylvania State Associations of Boroughs. We look at that. That comes out every 2 years. And so we also look at performance. So as we continue through, we have auditing and financial administration, which is set by an RFP, a request for a proposal that we did a few years ago. The auditing services are required to occur each year, and they're paid based on that RFP over time. We have bookkeeping services now, payroll taxes and expenses, total auditing and financial administration at $56,277. Tax collection, a lot of this is set by local ordinance. That's $10,139.67. Legal services, and as you see, and we've been saying this the last few if you look at the round 1, round 2 budget discussions, those videos that we put out, you'll see that we have more right to know requests than we've had in the previous 10 years. The last year, we've seen a massive uptick in right to know requests. And so those right to know request lines in legal, you'll see it again in the bookkeeping area. You'll see it again in auditing. You'll see it again for IT. It depends on what someone's requesting. It really is going to cause an upshot in the kind of work and labor and the professional services that are required to do that kind of work. So I've said it before, transparency has a cost associated with it. It's the nature of the business. As long as everybody understands that, I mean, that's just the way it is from our side, from an administrative standpoint, but also the public side, then it's known and it's accepted, and that's it. So legal services at a total $102,712. Secretarial, that's up front in the office, our office secretary, and we have a part-time office clerk. Total expenditures there of $86,766. General government administration, bank charges, things dealing with advertising and promotional, our office equipment, postage, again, right to know processing. That is now set at $27,405. A lot of lines there came out of the manager's lines to separate it out and to be more concise about what it is we were spending money on, and not to blur it with the manager's lines. IT networking systems, the next one here, also was separated out, $75,500, and you'll notice the big expense here. Okay, so we're seeing here in the computers and IT, we're replacing a lot of the computer and hardware, software infrastructure of the borough. A lot of it's aging out, 5, 6, 7 years old. So that's what that line is showing there. Engineering services, we have our engineering services here for a wide variety of borough-related topics, $72,729 there. And we've got an increase, a rate increase from Colliers Engineering going into 24 of 3%. And so we did see a lot of this occur through some of the vendors going in from 23 to 24 rate increases. And it's just the nature of the business right now, with the way healthcare costs have gone up, personnel costs have gone up. It's just wide serving. Municipal building and property, $35,305. Public safety, animal control, $8,000. That's a contract that we have with the NASCOG. That's that expense there, but it's shared between 10 other municipalities for animal control services. We also have the fire company, $25,588. Getting into UCC and code enforcement, total of $158,324.53. We did have a rate change again with this vendor, went from $75 an hour up to $80 an hour. And so a 6-7% jump from last year. Planning, zoning, property maintenance code, $26,403. A lot of this has to do with zoning hearing board matters that we may have, but also planning commission matters, planning commission meetings, anytime engineering and legal is used there. I will say a lot of the times, though, if a developer is bringing some of these expenses into the meeting, they are sharing those costs and paying for those services when they use our engineer and legal to have a plan review. Emergency management, $3,683. A lot of that is related to our Nixle system. Again, that's also a shared cost between us and 9 of the municipalities. I said 10 prior. We are the 10th municipality. Grass and weeds control, we are showing $32,000. That's contracted services to have professional landscaping done in 34 acres, open park acres that we have in the borough that Public Works can't get to themselves. Public Works and Roads Department, we have highway personnel salary. We do want to send at least 2 of our Public Works members to CDL training, so they get their CDL Class A. Total Public Works and Roads, $288,474. Cleaning streets and gutters. A lot of this is going to be moved into, which you should see this on this budget, in the MS4 fund, because it's things that are related to that type of work. So that fund's going to be taking care of those type of expenses. Winter maintenance services, we have to purchase road salt. We have possibly winter seasonal wages to have to pay for, but also snow removal subcontracting is also built in the event of a major snowstorm and we need help to remove some of the snow downtown. Traffic control devices, you'll see that there, $13,771. Storm sewers and drains, a lot of this is going to be moved into the MS4 fund, but before that, sidewalks and crosswalks, we just typically budget around $1,500 in special work there. Repairs of tools and machinery, $30,366.64. A lot of this deals with truck and fleet maintenance, but also equipment repairs that we need to make to whether it's dragging the ball fields, the equipment that we use there, their hand tools. It's a variety of different equipment and supplies that Public Works use in their day-to-day activities. Maintenance, just general maintenance and repairs of roads. So this is things like line and curb and crosswalk painting. If we need to rent equipment to do certain types of road work, we purchase out of this line, but also doing minor patches and repairs to the roads. Nothing really major like you've seen in the past year relative to Pine Street and Penn Street reconstruction, things like that. This is just the minor stuff, even some cold patch, things like that. All those other bigger road projects will be under the capital improvement budget. Participation in recreation and civic services. So a lot of this is going to, you see a highlighted part here where economic development, this line in here, is going to be moved into its own sub-general ledger account. So you'll start to see a lot more of that work and the breakout of what that committee actually does. You'll see that in another line here. That was the only other change we made to the budget there for $20,048. Spectator, recreation, and cultural. Well, we're not showing anything in the budget for 2024. But as I just mentioned, so community and economic development, that committee is a subcommittee of Borough Council, and they're getting some line items to do things like Old Home Weekend, Blues and Brews, a Yuletide celebration, music in the park, business forums. There's at least 2 forums that we do now. We have 2 of those now in the borough. One's typically in the spring, another in the fall. Monocacy Creek development on any type of festivals or special projects that committee would like to take on. So about $8,000 budgeted for 2024, which is the same amount that they had back in 2023. Parks and trails, we have parks and maintenance, and we have all of our parks broken out by location. That's what you see here. We do have phone and data lines that connect to the different parks for the purposes of running we have security cameras at these different locations. So each location has costs associated with that relative to phone and data lines. Electricity, we have electricity in each park, and we do have electrical costs there as well. So total parks and recreation, $43,200 anticipated for 2024. That's definitely due to change. Civic, military, celebration, and parades. We also now have broken out mayor events and initiatives that are typically handled by the mayor. The general fund's going to sponsor a lot of these different activities. The mayor's fund, which is another fund of the borough, not part of the general fund though. The mayor will typically do fundraising if she does things like marriage. If she marries people, she will get a donation, and those donations typically go into the mayor's fund, and she would cut checks out to do other events in town for the betterment of the community. A lot of the times too, though, the mayor, and a lot of people may not know this, but she spends a lot of her own money. She puts a lot of her own money up to hold different events or to bring food in. And the general fund's going to fund some of these activities for the mayor's events, as you see there. We have debt. We're carrying some debt. That's the obligation note on $550,000, $55,000 in principal, and we're estimating $12,000 in interest. ER, paid benefits and withholdings. That's employer paid benefits and withholdings. That's what that means. So we have FICA, Medicare, your PA unemployment compensation, workers' compensation, insurance, borough pension, a borough pension match, life, accident, dismemberment, and death benefits, and the federal excise tax or pecuniary fee, which is in relationship to healthcare. The borough is required to pay into the federal excise tax, the pecuniary fee. Judgments and losses, not anticipating any in 2024. Borough insurances, there's quite a bit, and we're at $28,400. That's probably an even estimate, but it might be a little bit higher due to some prior claims that we've had. Unfortunately, it seems like our parks can't get away from either the vandalism, or they can't get away from the occasional driver, especially Monocacy Creek Park. It seems like every other year somebody's driving through the park and creating a lot of property damage there. So there's going to be some claims and some issues there. Miscellaneous reimbursements, don't anticipate any. Interoperating transfers, this is the biggie. We have capital improvement fund, $44,000 to replenish or to add some more cash into that fund. We have our waste and recycling fund, no cash being distributed there. Same for the operating reserve, no cash being distributed there. The MS4 fund, which is our newer fund, this budget that you're seeing here, there's, as I stated earlier, it will include a tax increase of a $500,000, and then a $500,000 tax increase. $500,000 tax increase is around a 3% property tax raise, is what it is. So that cash is being built up into the MS4 fund because the borough's on the hook for storm water and storm sewer system projects. We have our current National Pollution Discharge Elimination System permit, which is a requirement from the feds, which is also a requirement right here in Pennsylvania through DEP. We have 5 years since 2022. We have to do 3 major projects. One's a rain garden project. Another is a pollution reduction project in 2 of our basins in the Holiday Hill subdivision. So the overall goal, as the permit would like, is that the borough in 5 years reduce its pollution from its storm sewer systems into the Monocacy Creek by 10%. So we have an MS4 committee. We have a funding shortage to get these projects done. At present, it looks like around $500,000 is going to be needed to do these stormwater repairs. There aren't grant opportunities for projects like this because the projects are typically under the $500,000 threshold, which requires $500,000 as a grant application, but you're going to come into the project, the borough would, with $500,000. We don't have over $1 million worth of projects, so it kind of leaves us sitting in this position of needing to fund these projects and have no way to pay for it at present without starting to put some cash away into the MS4 fund. All that said, the MS4 committee is still discussing, an MS4 fee. So basically, everyone that has impervious coverage, impervious means things like your driveway, pavements, right? So adding all that surface area up, wherever rain can't get through the ground, into the ground naturally, and if it runs off and enters the storm sewer system, then a fee would need to be generated in order to, based on your impervious coverage, to help pay for these projects. We have not only the capital costs for MS4, we have what's called operational and maintenance. So there's over 13,000 linear feet of pipes. We've got hundreds of storm sewer facilities, which include things like inlets. It includes, we have 17 outfalls. So in every area of the borough where rain falls, it all goes to a collection point, and then it hits one of 17 different outfalls into the Monocacy Creek. So we have quite a bit of facilities, and I don't even have an estimate at this point on the total value of that system and what we have in total inventory. But all of those things is being developed to help us with a reasonable fee that's going to help to not only take care of the MS4 capital construction costs, but also the O&M, the operational maintenance cost. So that's where we're at. And that's why we're looking at now a budget potentially with a tax increase into next year. Again, if it's a $500,000 increase, it would be a 3% jump in property taxes. If it is a full $1 million increase, it would be a 6% jump. And that those monies that are be generated for the property tax increase would be used to help us in our MS4 fund and to start building a pot of cash to make us compliant, make the borough compliant with its National Pollution Discharge Elimination System permit. So that's where all this comes from. It's what they call an unfunded mandate. And unfortunately, if we don't comply, it's not a matter of the borough just saying they're going to punt this and we're not going to do it. You've got 5 years to comply. And if you don't, it can come with some very heavy fines from both the DEP, but also the federal government, the EPA. So nobody wants to see that. We're trying to do our best to wrap our heads around the whole entirety of the problem, be mindful of all of our residents, come up with a program that's equitable and it's going to support this program, but also support our stormwater facility improvements. So more to be discussed on all of that in the future, in future council meetings, but also the MS4 committee. That committee meets at 5 p.m. on the fourth Mondays of each month, right here at Borough Hall, if you're interested in knowing anything more. So we're going to continue on. So in this budget package, we're showing 1.6 million or so in expenses. This is noting the millage, our assessed value, what we expect to collect in revenue. And that's what all these notes are here. Again, if we were to collect what we show here, and I do want to point out just as an added educational part to this. So the Borough of Bath's total, we have this here. It is a total assessed valuation of $55,650,700. You divide that by 1,000 as in 1 mil, then you get a millage rate of $55,650.70. If our millage rate is set at 15.70 mils, then we would expect to collect at 100% $873,715.99. We also have 1.25 mils for debt servicing. So if you collected all of that at 100%, everyone paid their taxes, 943,000 and change, we would expect to collect. We don't collect that though. So typically we're humming in around 95% collection rate, about average. And we have a 2% discount for those taxpayers that pay early. So with those figures, you go from 943 and then you'll be banked down into about $878,193. So you lose quite a bit through delinquent accounts, but also discounts that are taken and things like that. Now, not everybody's going to take a 2% discount, and that's understandable. For conservative budgeting purposes, that's what we do. We just make it that it's 2% discount across the board. So moving along, we show real estate taxation and we show prior year collections and claims, $940,000 as an anticipated collection in the tax department. Real estate transfer taxes, $60,900. Earned income taxes are strong, $367,599 there. Local service tax, $27,000. All in all, we're showing these are all your different revenues. I won't hit every single line, but you can see for yourself if you stop the video or kind of scroll through the different revenue types. So again, 1.6 million in revenues, 1.6 million in expenditures. The 2024 budget as proposed here would be shown as balanced. And that would be the general fund. So moving on to, this is the Bath MSW fund. So we are a single hauler community here in the Borough of Bath, meaning we contract residential waste and recycling. Of course, we all know there's not recycling at the current contract, but we do contract for MSW for municipal solid waste services, and those fees are passed on to the consumer. But also the borough has internalized costs for administering the program, and that's why your bills are what they are, $450 and $495 if you pay past the deadline. And that's what all these charges are. These are showing you all the internal expenses that we're looking at. I do want to point out that we have IT and computer software billing here. And the expense here is for bringing utility billing software into the borough for internalizing utility billing for us for both the MS4, I'm sorry, the MSW, the municipal solid waste, but also establishing infrastructure necessary for an MS4 fee, which may not take place at the earliest until 2025 as it looks right now. So it's at least another year out on that type of thing. But we're building in the infrastructure. It's going to be shared between this fund and the MS4 fund. Office administration, etc. So we also have some other expenses with the Environmental Steering Committee. They do electronics events, but also they're looking to do a tire waste and recycling event and some other events throughout 2024. So stay tuned for that. So you're showing total expenses out of the MSW fund of $472,517.75. We believe that our income in that fund will be $561,240. And so we should have a fund balance carried forward from 23 into 24. We have our contracted fees that we expect to get from ratepayers, and we're humming at around 80%, 88% at current. So we do not get all of our ratepayers pay this fund. And a lot of those accounts wind up in a delinquency and we get paid over time. So that's the issue there. Interoperating transfers, as I said, $7,000 will be spent in conjunction with the MS4 fund to help pay for the utility billing software. So if all goes well, there should be a fund balance of $88,000 or so estimated in the MSW fund. So moving on now to the MS4 fund. This would be a new fund for 2024. It's our 7th fund for the borough. We are looking at legal services next year to hire a special attorney. It sounds like to possibly establish a municipal authority, an MS4 authority. So more information to come on that. That is all very new and will be continued to be developed at the committee level for council to make consideration later in the year, probably the second quarter of 2024. There is also going to be engineering costs associated with the program to help develop the stormwater fee. And again, more to come on that type of information. But generally, light in expenses. This budget does now show cleaning the streets and gutters, which was in the general fund. Now it's in the MS4 fund. You also have storm sewers and drains, which used to be in the general fund. This would now be in the MS4 fund. So potential expenses in the new fund of $64,250 going into 24. And revenues, we're expecting a fund balance from general fund to help to fund this fund, but also to receive additional funding in a tax increase. So interoperating transfers from the general fund will be a little bit higher than what this is showing, $31,655. The goal here is to build this fund up to a few $100,000 before the 5th year of our permit, which is 2027, I believe, because we need to have these projects done way in advance before the borough ever implemented an actual stormwater fee, even if that passes. That still may not even pass. So that's why we're kind of in this bind. You need money. You got to have money to do the projects. You need a way to find the funding for it. It could be controversial to even do do a fee for stormwater. And if we don't do a fee for stormwater, it needs to come from somewhere. So that's where these adjustments and why the need for a tax increase could occur. Moving on to capital improvement fund. We're looking at engineering services for the Old Ford Street lighting project and capital improvements in general, $30,000 for engineering relative to that kind of work. The new thing here would be a new 10-ton dump truck in the price range of $247,000. This is being reflected in the revenue side from potentially 3 state grants the borough has out right now. So basically, if the state doesn't fund the project through the 3 different grant applications, then the truck's not going to be purchased. Real simple. Just so everyone's aware of that. Street lighting capital project we have still slated for $352,000, and a chunk of that change is being covered hopefully by a Pennsylvania DCED multimodal grant, we'll wait to hear word. We will not know until the spring of 24 if we've been successful. We have highway construction costs. Borough Avenue is the big ticket winner there. $150,000 of anticipated expense to have it contracted out and complete. So total capital improvement fund expenses is $789,000 for 2024. And this is paid for how? So we're assuming that there's going to be a fund balance going from 23 to 24 in the amount of $400,000. That's an assumption. There is some money left in savings, but we are holding on to that as a reserve. We believe also in our assumptions that 1, 2, or all 3 of the state grants will hit to help us get the dump truck. But if they don't, then that is going to sink that project. We also believe the multimodal grant will hit in the amount of $245,000. So large portion of the capital improvement fund is based on the assumption that $492,000 worth of state funding will become available to the borough, that we can get these things done. If it doesn't, that is going to deflate a lot of what we're trying to do for 2024. So I would just have to say, State Senator, our representatives, please, let's get this pushed through to Harrisburg. We desperately need these projects to keep us going, to keep us rolling. We have tremendous success so far. We want to keep going with our success. We want to get these projects done. We need a new dump truck, and we need these lights over, the new street lights for the Old Forge community. That community is very dark at night. There's not enough lighting. So this is my personal plea to the state, to Harrisburg. Let's get it done, please. Let's get some money to get these projects off our list, and really to have a safer community. So we would appreciate that very much. So, and so moving right along, we have we're looking at 2 other community development block grants from Northampton County. We hope they hit. We don't know. It's another assumption. So the revenue side, we see from interoperating fund transfers, you have $44,000 coming in from the general fund, and then you have, now granted, and I'll say this, and I'll probably be lost in the mix here, but some of these numbers from the interoperating fund transfers may not match up just yet because they're drafts and things have been changed. But on final copy, a lot of that stuff will match from the general fund into the appropriate fund, whether it's the capital improvement, MS4, MSW, etc. But you're looking at a total of $1 million in total revenues, and a big, huge portion of that, I think it's half, more than half, really, or around half, no, it's more than half. It's going to be grants. So we'll see how that goes. We should have a fund balance in this account of $212,000 when it's all said and done. But as you see, when you do projects, boom, the amount goes right down. You got to keep replenishing the fund in order to keep it stable and to maintain levels of service that we desire in order to get certain things done here in town. Highway Aid Fund. This is showing that 15% of the total dump truck cost could potentially come out of the Highway Aid Fund, saying if the grant that we put in for, the 3 different grants that we put in for, don't fund it 100%. Council was weighing some type of a cap here. They don't want to exceed 15% potentially, maybe 20%. The borough does have an equipment balance that it can pull from its liquid fuels fund. And if you scroll down here, we'll just show you. It's not listed here, but when you look at the total cash that we received, what we have in fund balance, we have an estimated between $115,000 or $200,000 in the Highway Aid Fund. Now, a portion of that, I think it's 35%, can be used for equipment purposes, or it's actually designated for equipment purposes. You can't use it for anything else other than that. So we'll wait to see how it all shakes out, how our numbers shake out in the Highway Aid Fund. We'll wait to see how the grants either fund or they don't fund, and then we'll wait to see how much of our equipment balance will be needed to cover the rest of the cost of a new truck. Fire Protection Fund, very simple. It's a $500,000. We talked about assessed rates earlier in the general fund. It's a $500,000 set. 100% of that cash goes right to the fire company in 2 installments, one in June, one in December. And that's what this budget reflects. And hopefully at the end of the year, we have a fund balance of around 3,100 to keep that checking account afloat, that we don't bounce it and things like that. Moving on to the operating reserve fund. I think this is the last fund of this presentation. Not expecting very many expenses, if at all, or any type of fund transfers. We're trying to hold on to our cash. We should be coming out of 2023 with $437,940 into 2024. We should be receiving our interest rate a little bit higher in the last year or so, given banking, the way the Federal Reserve rates and things have been fluctuating. So making some money on our money. And so at the end of next year, we're looking at $441,634 in the operating reserve. So with that, that is the end of this budget presentation for the 2024 budget, to include the 7 different funds that we have here in town. That's a draft of everything. Again, unfortunately, this budget does look at the potential of a tax increase, a $500,000 at least at this point. If it's up to a mil, 1 millage point, not $1 million, 1 mil, it could be anywhere from a 3% property tax increase up to a 6% property tax increase. And a lot of that, again, is for our MS4, our municipal separate storm sewer system, the work that we're required to do by both DEP and the federal government. The budget will continue to be hammered out. Our next meeting is October the 11th. If you can make that meeting, please join us for that. If you can't, you have this video. You can watch this at your leisure and come up with questions. You can email us here, manager@boroughbath.org, or you can stop in the office during regular business hours, Monday through Friday, between 9 a.m. and 4 p.m. Or you can give us a call, 610-837-6525, to discuss the numbers here and anything that you've seen in this presentation. Once council is ready to go forward with a budget for 2024, that budget needs to be publicly advertised. So when that happens, if it occurs October 11th or if it occurs at the November 6th meeting, there'll be a public advertisement. If there's an ordinance, you'll be able to see it at that time. We'll also post that information on our website. The budget, just as I've read here, will be in its entirety, also available online. You can look at that over the course of time before council actually sits and adopts that budget in a public meeting. So there'll be plenty of time for the public to reread these numbers and see what we've done, and potentially make comments as you see fit. For now, that is it. I hope you enjoyed the budget presentation. I'm sure it's as much fun as watching paint dry, but it is what it is. So I like it. It's fun. And for all you budget lovers out there, I hope this was fun for you as well. Till next time, have a great day. Take care, and we'll see you soon. Bye.